What is a totally wrong thing that has become so widespread it's not considered wrong anymore? Spam email. We ignore it, it's just there. But it shouldn't be. Employers expecting employees to check emails while outside of work. Years ago I had no idea email senders could get notifications if the recipient had received and read the email. I would just check work emails and pretend I never read them until I got back into the office the next day. Then my manager baited me into lying about not reading them. Never checked work emails for real after that. How? What email service? Read receipts are a pretty standard feature. You can absolutely set your mail client to refuse read receipts though. Your boss expecting that they can contact you at any hour. I had a pretty good boss who rarely contacted me outside of work hours unless it was important. I work 12 to 8 p.m. and stay up late. At 1 a.m., I get a phone call. Hey, everything okay? I'm really sorry to call. I stayed late to organize the storage closet. And I just locked myself out. I figured you'd be the only person with keys that might be awake. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I'm clocking you in for an hour for this. Yup. Your manager is awesome. And fair play you for helping out. Apparently he had gotten chewed out by the owner for the storage area being disorganized, so had come back after his family went to bed to clean it up. He was a good buffer between ownership and employees. There was a reason I had turned down the management promotion before I hired him. I've come in after hours to clean up finish up tasks to keep unreasonable ownership from throwing a shit fit. They want to cut staff, cut overtime, but they expect productivity to increase with fewer bodies and fewer hours. They always revert to a good manager will get his team to pick up the slack. No, asshole, there are only so many hours in the day and only so many things one person can do at a time. Ran over. On top of that, people, much like a car engine, can't work at 100% capacity forever. There is a sweet spot to get the best performance around 70% or so. That you can cruise at forever without the threat of blowing out the engine. Then if something is needed you can get people to buckle down and ramp that up harder for the emergency. But if you're already working everyone at 100% for the day-to-day and an emergency comes through, they can't work any harder because they're already maxed. And then there's also the burnout from stress and overwork because people can't go at 100% all the time. The service industry gets around this problem because it's cheaper to replace the engine rather than treat them as humans. I just quit my hospitality job because the turnover of staff was so high. Because of this, no one knew what the system was completely. After a few months I became the most senior staff member for a few days whilst people were on holidays. The owners couldn't understand why people were burnt out after only working a couple of months. Busiest cafe in my city, BTW, with a menu over 40 dishes. Hospitality really drains you. Plastic, everything packaged in more plastic. Well, I'm not sure if it's actually wrong, but needing a few years of experience for an entry-level job just sounds pretty wrong to me. Yeah, companies seem to not differentiate between entry, let's say at most an internship beforehand, and low-level positions, 1 to 5 years experience. Thanks to COVID, I graduated with no internship. Guess I'll be living in my parents' basement for eternity. I'd just like to point out that I had internship, didn't really help because it was less than 5 years. WTF, don't bet on that internship is necessarily helping you get a job, decrying an master's degree. I saw some post from somewhere that had an application for an internship that required 1 to 5 experience. Like how the duck is anyone supposed to win? I think a lot of times, it's a case of laziness on the part of whoever makes these listings. Like they just copy-paste as much as possible. Oftentimes, you can still get the job without the experience, but of course it's difficult when people with more experience are also applying. Sometimes it's also a case of they already know who they want to hire but they're legally obligated to publicly advertise the position, so they do so with impossible requirements, or qualifications tailor-made to the person they want. Happens a lot in academia where I live. Making terms and conditions overcomplicated and long. Interestingly, because they're so long and dense, there have been several court cases in the US stating that they are not legally binding, since you are not expected to actually read it. Yeah, you can't have any gotcha clauses hidden deep within the boilerplate. Companies have to show that any unusual terms and conditions were communicated in such a way that the consumer knew exactly what they were getting into. Gotcha clauses up to 1 million GB/s speeds. A job making you seasonal part-time but works you at least 40 hours every week, never giving you full-time wage or insurance. 39.5 hours every week. I worked at a big box store that would send us home early if we were close to going over the old 39.5. They would also have us take a day off in order to kill overtime if we had stayed late during the week. When I was part-time, the grocery store that I currently work at would schedule me for 39 hours 3 weeks out of the month, then cut my hours in half the final week. Harvesting as much data as possible. You have to go to some extreme lengths to prevent your personal information being sent to random strangers you have never met. For anyone with the aptitude, Pi-hole. You essentially set up a tiny PC and route all internet requests through it, then give it a block list. Nothing connected to your network can complete requests to domains on the block list. Phone, PC, smart TV, washer for geek, nothing. I honestly can't remember the last time I saw an ad, and it can block anything trying to phone home in the background as well. Social media addiction. I can quit any time I want. Closes Reddit, stares blankly at home screen before mindlessly opening Reddit again. I quit Facebook by deleting the app and bookmark. At least that makes a bit of a chore to log in and check it. Yeah, they make it such a second-class experience to use browsers to try and discourage this, I'm sure. Having to accept cookies for every website. It's made purposefully difficult by companies so you will just accept it. There should be an implicit deny on the browser level, that just always blocks cookies outright. Edit, wording wasn't very good. I obviously know we need cookies for session management and such. I meant an actual system to just deny unnecessary cookies, like tracking and other stuff. And yes, there is a system like that. Not a single website honors it. Well, I mean, you can disable cookies outright, but that will break virtually any stateful website. Having no regard for your mental health, peace of mind in the name of hustling. Funnily enough, having no work-life balance is flaunted smile. I've never taken a sick day. Yes, Kathy. I know. From the time you gave me the flu. Yep, not taking sick days when you're sick is just wrong. Our QA manager infected our whole office, 12 people, because he had pneumonia, or COVID. It was before the whole shit storm became widely known, and couldn't take time off because he was needed. Poor dude was going to the hospital after work to get IVs just to be able to go back to work. I was the only one who didn't catch it, somehow. The colleague next to me was off work for 3 weeks and another ended up in a hospital. It's true, but sometimes bosses still tell you to come in anyway. I used to work at a preschool, and once when I had the flu, literally up half the night puking, I called in and my director told me, "Come in anyway so we have the early numbers and I'll get you out when I can." I was surprised. Preschools are basically petri dishes anyway, so you are willing bringing in more illness? That is disturbing and stupid. Why would someone be selfish enough to make others get sick for their own benefit? Daycares have quotas that they must adhere to for state regulations, but more importantly for the safety of the kids, such as the right number of teachers to kids and the right number of kids in a space. If I hadn't been there, they would have been out of ratio, but it still sucks, and it seems like there's got to be a better way than having someone who is ill coming in and potentially spreading whatever they have around. Bosses threatening your job or hours if you call in sick or use vacation time at inconvenient times. Agree. Going to work sick was also one of the accepted wrong things. Hope mindset changed now. I had a job 5 years ago where the boss was an asshole. We were on a deadline on a project, but I was so sick I was hacking up stuff and generally gross. He told me to come in anyway, and when I got there he gave me cold medicine, like I didn't have medicine at home. Obviously I wasn't very productive and everyone had to stay away from me. It was ridiculous. Lol. Geez. I know you're sick today, cough 931, so I took it upon myself to give you your very own cold medicine. You can show your appreciation by working overtime today, you're welcome. Yep, that was it pretty much. I also discovered later that he was an alcoholic and would put whiskey in his morning coffee. It explained why he would get more belligerent as the day went on. It was a normal thing for people to get called idiot. There was also one employee on a work visa, and he used to threaten to stop sponsorship if the person didn't stay overtime to fix issues. I don't know how that company is still in business. Oh, when I finally left, he refused to pay me my last paycheck. I had to threaten to go to the labor board, and eventually I got it like 6 months later. He told me he didn't have the money. I found out later some of the employees that had been there longer term often would work unpaid, and he would pay them their back pay in a lump sum when he had money. It was crazy.